Welcome to Lat B, the only podcast that comes with a free Bandits bonus.
Express delivery included.
Lat B, where MMA and UFC get silly. This is the Lat B podcast.
Welcome back. After a UFC pay-per-view, we have the morning after. And oh, what a morning we had. A lot of movement in the UFC, a lot of stories breaking. We have Uncle Dana talking to everybody after the fights. How did you end up doing on this pay-per-view? How was your weekend? How's the morning after treating you?
Like a good convenience store, I got 7 of 11.
Ooh, not bad. Ended up going myself. You went, are you sure it was 7?
Yeah.
It wasn't more than that? I was thinking you were in the 8 of 11.
Maybe. I thought we did the same. I thought it was just the exact same as a lot of times where we're both all over the place and we get the same.
7 of 11.
Yeah.
Good call either way. Ended up having a little bit of a rough night for me. I had first time in a while that I started off 4 wrong in a row. It set a bad tone for me, and then I got 7 in a row right. So that was a little interesting. A lot of favorites coming through, couple underdogs. Before we get back into the breakdown, the recap of this entire card, any news, any weigh-in stuff that we were building in? We had Duwadu come in as the last fighter, having a little Talgate issue. Daniel Cormier approved. Tal situation going on there with Dadua or Duwadu.
Explain it to the people that don't know what it means.
So we had everybody else make weight early throughout the day. As soon as the official weigh-ins opened up, all but one, Hakeem Duwadu ended up waiting till the last 5 minutes to weigh in. Had to weigh in with a towel, his first attempt. Not only did that happen, told you we were going to be in Canada. I said, the commission is garbage here. Was I right or was I right? Because they allowed Duwadu, they said, don't touch the cage or don't touch the towel. And then he lets go and then rests his hands back on the towel. And you see the commission just be like, okay. Oh, he made it. All right, we're good. Local
But
Canadian.
the judging was better than expected. All the decisions went in the right direction.
I would agree with that, but there was a couple times where I was like, no way that was a 30-27. Like that, there was a fight
Yeah, there was
night.
a couple of wrong numbers where I felt like, no, that person
But
pulled
the
out
win
a round
went to
of
the
that.
right person.
Yeah, but it
Totally
wasn't
agree.
robberies anywhere. But yeah, that was sketchy AF. Anytime, like, no. And if the picture's there after, double no. Something, they should immediately lose 20%.
So here's a little interesting thing I just thought of, and I agree with that 20%, if not more, you could get disqualified in there because that is bending the rules. But if the ladies get the hoop, why don't the guys? Because I saw Max Holloway's butt cheeks at that weigh-in.
I agree with that as well.
Like, why the towel for guys and not just the hoop? Just everybody can use the hoop. Then guess what? He touches that hoop. You know what's happening. Like, there is no ifs, ands, or buts about it.
Yeah.
So, interesting little thing I never really thought of, but hoop for everybody.
Yeah, equal rights.
100% agreed.
Equal rights. Bring on the hoop.
Everybody gets a hoop of shade.
Yeah.
Everybody.
You get the hoop. You get the hoop.
So,
Everybody else made weight though, right?
everybody else made weight. A lot of people were under. Who was at championship weight even? I feel like both Frankie and Max. Max, going back down to 45 after 55. How do you feel he weighed in? Because I thought he looked a little sucked out. But of course, he's a 5'10",
He looked sucked out, but
pounds.
I thought he looked better than he looked in previous weigh-ins in a few years. He didn't have as hollowed out eyes. But also, before the fight started, we lost the first fight of the night.
Exactly. As Cheney was telling you guys, she said, I'm going to treat this as an 11-card bout. Wow, what did you know? What good piece of advice did you end up seeing that was going to end up happening?
I left shrimp in my car, and then I brought it to a fighter, one of the fighters.
Oh, that was it?
Food poisoning. No way. I would never.
Oh, really? I was going to say mini big country. He could have put him down. But it was actually Glyco. What was his last name? Lemons. Ended up popping. Did I say the Brazilian is on all sorts of juice on there, and he'll probably pop after the fight. But he's a guy who's definitely just got some of that Brazilian-ness going. And sure enough, he popped for USADA before he ever stepped in the ring. So you could have watched the tape and seen it. It's one of those smell tests. Smells like shit. It's probably a big pile of shit in the corner. So that's exactly what it was with that. Any other news that broke before the week there was some Twitter stuff back and forth going down between Colby Covington, Dylan Dennis, Jorge Masvidal, and T. Wood. They all need to get new friends. There's been a lot of back and forth. Did you end up seeing any of those volleys on the Twitterverse?
Who?
Between Jorge Masvidal, T. Woods, Ben Askren, and Dylan Dennis?
I saw Dylan Dennis try to get involved just to put his name in the mix, but nobody commented back to him. Or I didn't see anyone.
I didn't see a reply either.
And then Masvidal, and I didn't see anything from Ben Askren, but Masvidal has been heavy on the Twitter of late.
He definitely has been getting in there. Colby as well, I feel like, has been bringing up the game. But he's got this coming up Saturday in a midday card, a main event underway. So, of course, he's going to be talking as much as possible right now. As far as the Twitterverse stuff, I'm sure the other stuff will go down.
Colby's
we need to get into
Robbie
this.
this coming weekend.
Correct. At noon Eastern.
Insane.
It's a good fight.
It's a good fight.
Some of the other fights, little iffy. How do you feel with this MMA fatigue going on? Because I feel like I'm starting to really feel it. I'm already looking at the next cards.
Well, you only have one more.
And then we finally get a break. But I'm saying I feel it now. I felt it for this pay-per-view with the tape study. Feel like I forced a couple plays and didn't end up working out. But it was definitely forced. So
we'll talk
get
about
there.
it when it gets there.
We'll get
but I
there.
think we need to put perimeters on it.
I agree.
But then I was looking back at the past ones, and there was nothing that made... We'll talk about it when we
will get there.
Yeah.
For sure. We started off the night, though, with an 11-card bout. At 170 pounds, Eric Koch moving all the way up from 155 to 170 against Kyle Stewart. Stewart, the former Marine, evil twin ties to Kyle Stewart. They served in the same unit together in the Marine Corps. Kyle Stewart being an avid Marine in there.
Oh, is that why you switched again? I think that's the second time you see him on the weigh-ins and you remember, oh shit, that's the Marine. And then you switch because it's a Marine, and I feel like it doesn't, both times now, I think it's been not great.
I would agree it isn't working out. If I follow what I say on tape and I'm like, hey, Eric Koch should be the better guy, they're pretty much the only other way for Stewart to win is by a KO, so I'm relying on that chin. Well, the better fighter, obviously, is Koch, so need to take my own advice and stick with those.
I had Stewart going into it, but I switched to Koch once at the weigh-ins. You said on the show, let's wait to weigh-ins to make sure Koch's not the undersized guy. And he wasn't.
He looked
and
good.
Immediately I switched to Koch because he does have, just that much more tenureship at a good camp. But it's funny that everyone in their camp stepping up. Everyone in their camp stepping up in weight. And I was going to ask, do you think it would behoove Sergio to step up in weight? Or do you think he looks fine? What is he, 125? 135.
I thought it was 35. No. He beat Bennett. He lost Benavidez. It's 25. 25. I could see Pettis going up, but he's not the biggest guy either. He's fairly short, but muscular. He's never looked like he had a tough weight cut compared to most guys. His brother, though, definitely one of those that went from 45 to 70 as well, and looking better than he's ever looked in there. We had actually Koch talking about in his post-fight interview how cutting weight's overrated. How do you feel about that statement?
I think it's starting to prove to be true.
I think I agree with you. The thing that I didn't like, though, is what Koch was saying.
Spencer is a good representation of that.
Oh, we'll get there for that one. And that I agree with that. She definitely changed a lot of people's minds in there. With Koch, though, a thing that I'm going to be hesitant on as far as DraftKings plays once he's stepping up at this 170-pound division is he was really adamant about grappling and not being too active striking. I thought that he wasn't going to score that well. He ended up getting over 80 points for being cheaper on DraftKings, so he really paid out, was on those first place cards. But just the game plan, he openly talked about, like, now I know what I need to do with these guys. They got a lot of power. I need to just grapple them and turn it into a clinch. And this got a bit grindy in midway through that second round. I was like, oh, okay, this isn't a fun fight anymore. The first round, they were cracking. Second and third round, woo, it got a little just, I'm going to push you up against the fence and we're going to stay here.
I liked a lot of what I saw from Stewart. I think he's going to be a great underdog pick for a lot of people going forward. I think he's a grinder. I don't know, I have no idea where he's at camp. but something might need to. He just might need to.
MMA Lab.
Oh, that's fine.
It's a good kid.
Yeah, like he's putting it all together good. And I also think he needs to, his back tattoo, like weave something through it or add something to it. Like,
what, you don't like the big USMC?
I don't mind the USMC. Put it on there, whatever people are
sure, do what you do.
But just, I think it needs to have something added to it. Add to it. Thicken the letters up, make them a little bit different of a font. He could string something through it or add the logo underneath it to a whole back piece. I think it's his shtick. He wears the flag proudly in all the weigh-ins. It's his thing. So I'm like, go all the way with it. Make a big, huge back piece out of it.
I agree. It does look like it's just kind of like the starting point for something else because both of his arms are
almost
covered.
Looks like, you know how people get those like tattoos in jail where they poke needle? It looks like a big version of that.
It kind of does in some of its lines.
It doesn't have any... It just looks like a really not great job. And I think it needs to be... If you're going to represent the Marine Corps, make that shit look like the Marines. Like, make it look all like...
I agree with that, but I know quite a few Marines, and...
They're like, that stick and poke tattoo it's good enough.
After a 24-pack of Bud Lights, you're just like, yeah, put it on there.
Right, did it.
Put it on there, and the tattoo artist is like, oh, $300, let's go. Or more than that, depending on where you're at in the country.
I think that thing could be beautified. I'm looking forward to the progression. I hope he doesn't go anywhere.
Do you think he stays? I was about to ask you in the UFC 2 in a row.
I think he should be able to. I still want one more fight. I think they're going to put him against somebody thinking somebody's going to chew right through him, and he's going to win that one. That's what I hope for.
I'm hoping for as well. I think he gets one more shot in there.
He was on the second fight of the night, so it still wasn't the first fight of the night. Like, you know.
So with the Lat B rule that we stay away from the first fight of the night, do we change it to this, or does it just stay that dead fight?
I didn't have this anywhere.
You said you had Coke, I thought.
I had him to win, but I didn't have on any of my cards. I didn't play great cards, even though I didn't have a bad night. 7 of 11 isn't great, but it's not. I'm still comfortably over 50%. I didn't have a great night on DraftKings. I didn't put it together well. I
agree. I had a really bad night on DraftKings, and the bets over 50%, or not the bets, the straight up picks over 50%, but betting wise, yeah, it was definitely a rough pay-per-view one for me. Moving on to the 125-pound division, we have Jillian Roberts coming in and dominating Sarah Frota, the PMP. Evil Twin. As much credit as he got as helping out on the other ones. Keith switched my mind on this one.
This is what I think about this.
Ugh, disgusting.
We both agreed on Jillian Robertson on air. Both of
Better.
us.
Yep.
It's too much, like, for both of our picks to change. We both changed because also the scary weigh-in.
Right.
And Jillian looked a little intimidated.
Correct.
Both of us changed to her. It can't also take another step up to a PMP.
PMP, right. If we switch it, right. That's a great point.
And I have nothing to do with the PMP. I just am like,
true.
That was too much. And neither of us, if you re-listen to that show, we almost had a disrespect for Frota. We were like, Jillian wins everywhere. And even
other than the striking.
Mutato, he on Instagram said, I'm staying with Jillian. I should have switched back then.
Good call. Good call. The thing that I was most worried about looking into it is the striking for Jillian. She looked better than she ever has, but Frota had that power, but Jillian never allowed it, taking it to the ground. And then this was actually the start of the garbage calling by Joe Rogan in the night. This was horrible first round call. He's saying, oh, Froda's underneath, and look at, she's squeezing in her legs. But Jillian Roberts had a shin in between the crotch, so it's like Froda's squeezing, but there's literally no danger. And Joe's like, oh, he's almost got her. He's got her in the stink face. She's almost going down.
Froda's totally doing this. Froda's doing that. Froda's just wearing out her legs from her back while Jillian total manhandles her and spreads her around. Like, Jillian had the whole fight, and I wanted to be biased and pull for Frota somewhere. I was hoping Joe Rogan was right.
Agreed. But he wasn't.
There was like maybe 1.5, 2 times that Jillian was in trouble in that first 3 to 4 minute grappling exchange, just where it was nerve-wracking a little.
Right, but he wasn't even in trouble. It was the potential to be in trouble.
Yeah,
so it wasn't even like, oh, it almost submitted her. No. It was Frota almost getting up and then Roberts being like, okay. Then Roberts ended up laying those elbows in the second round nonstop. slicing Froda up. I mean, Froda's a complete fade everywhere from this point forward. And Roberts should have stayed on that hype train. Been big followers
we
here
have
of
the
Roberts.
whole time. We've loved her. We love that she's like our
Nonstop.
hometown
Yes,
girl.
exactly.
She's right there,
Exactly.
right down the road. We could go. She could be our first interview. We're garbage for changing.
We are garbage
And
for changing.
if we didn't bring it up right now, some people might not know because some people don't follow us on the social media. They just listen to us here. A lot, of people. So it's like, it's so funny. We should have just stuck with our.
100% agreed.
And
so
we both fell off.
we will do better for you fans.
But you know what? Froda, this is what I have to say. She's intimidating.
Everyone kept calling her an MS-13 gang member, and that freaked me out.
I was thinking she was a mumble rapper.
But when that fight starts, it's one of two ways with Froda's face. Either she looks pale and dead, like she doesn't know she's about to be in a fight, or she's like in killer mode. I don't know. It could go one of two ways where you're like, she's about to go ham, or she's just going to get beat up, and she went out there and got beat up. That frown that she wears, she wore up until they were calling her name. Not even up until. She never changed it. It was always just, okay, I'm gonna strike. It just didn't give me the feeling that she was actively fighting in there. She was just reacting. So absolute complete fade. I don't care. Remind me next time. Can't bet Froda anywhere.
But I like Jillian. I love the progression I saw from her everywhere. Her hands looked so good. I like the way her body looked. I liked her hairstyle. I liked her grappling exchanges. I felt like she was far dominant.
Who would you give her as a opponent next for Roberts?
115 for Jillian.
25.
125. She said she looked good on weight, felt good on weight.
Yep.
125 division. Who do we give Jillian?
I want to say Ronda Marcos. Because she's higher ranked, but she is off a loss. And Jillian doesn't have a ranking yet.
I feel for Jillian, give her your Ostovich.
Oh, interesting. I think they try to give Ostovich a win, though.
I don't know. I feel like she could, I think it is what it is.
Yeah, Ostovich is hanging on by a thread there as far as her contract. She's essentially an Instagram model now.
She looks like a Kardashian.
100%.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe Paige Van Zandt?
Paige is going to be out for a little while. I thought she was just
Her
saying.
arm's healing up.
I don't know if it was arm, but I thought that she was just
Third
talking
surgery
about
on that arm.
Yeah, you're right.
I feel like I might be saying the whole wrong name, and if it's not this is kind of a good name, but I feel like it's Tough Love or something is her YouTube channel with her and her man and her husband, and it's like a reality show when I watch it. It's like My Trash TV.
Is that Paige's
Yeah.
show? I didn't know she had a show.
She has like this little...
A vlog?
It's kind of a vlog,
Okay.
but it's edited a little better than a vlog, and it's just their little show that her and Homeboy does from Bellator. I'm sorry, I don't know his name.
Mr. Paige Van Zandt.
But he has like a new tattoo on his neck right here of an eyeball.
Oh, okay.
Me and my wife were watching it, and we didn't say it out loud for a long time to each other, but by the end of like the third little segment, we were like, I don't like that.
Yeah,
That's
why would
weird.
Paige let him do that?
That's weird. That is a really odd placement of a tattoo, but they're in like therapy, I think. I don't know. It's an interesting little show. It was fun. He's from Alaska, and they went up there, and they were on like one of those little puddle hoppers. Whatever. What about if she's going to need to heal after this fight. I don't know where Paige's arm's at. She might need a year more of healing. She has.
That's where.
I think she can start training though. I think she's training again, and she has her foam cast on now.
You're right on that. It's just, again, a nagging injury that hasn't seemed to get better. So somebody that's actually projected to be fighting right now, I feel like there's a lot of active fighters that are more likely to get that fight with Roberts, because I don't think she took any damage in there. I know that leg crank that Froda got her in for a while was pretty brutal, but but I think she'll be absolutely fine. I mean, not a scratch on her face in that interview. So Roberts looking all sorts of good in there. Moving on to 125 pounds for the males, we ended up having a fight of the night contender in there. It won fight of the night, did it not? I believe it did.
Yeah, and I think
450 grand. We called it. Called it here, Cheney. 100%.
This was the only thing that and that Froda Robertson fight turned out good in my opinion. The Coke, what's the homeboy's name?
Stewart.
Stewart. that was a grind.
Yep, super grind.
So, right now, getting to this point, it was not as bad as I thought it was going to be, and then this exceeded all expectations.
I mean, hell of a fight between Davisi and Figueiredo against Alejandro Pantoja. I mean, all the way around, the power just showing for Figueiredo. Good takedown defense, landing that uppercut jab. Absolutely laser beam, flicking it out there, and Pantoja not backing down, swinging in there, landing a lot of strikes as well in there, trying to get more of the takedowns out of the two, but it looked like Figueiredo after that Formiga fight was like, oh, I can't be on the ground because it doesn't benefit me, and Pantoja was doing good stuff in there. I think this loss for either win or loss either guy, I like them both going forward. I think they do really well at 125. This is why we keep around the 125-pound division. You just had fight of the night, 125ers. It can happen.
I think it's fine. I think everybody made a big deal because they were like, if they're getting rid of Mighty Mouse, the division must be gone.
Right.
No, maybe they just didn't like Mighty Mouse's style. Maybe it was boring with him just holding up the top because of the way that he was choosing to fight for whatever reason.
Right.
And I do think it was financial, but I love both guys going forward. And Figueiredo's takedown defense has come so far that I think he's pretty friggin' unstoppable, and I think he competes with the top 5 in the division. He is in it. He is in it. He handled Pantoja in a way that I just didn't think he was going to have the takedown defense to do it. And I just thought he looked great.
That's what I was thinking as well. And Ali.
It made me excited. I didn't mind being a little wrong about this. Yeah, so Ali Dicko.
Out of the UK over there throwing it up.
He must have got 8 of 11 because he has the exact same as you, except he had this one different.
So good call there, bud.
That's a great night. 8 of 11.
Good call.
That's
Definitely.
the difference. That's the difference on DraftKings.
Yeah,
8 of 11
it's these close fights. Well, close fights on paper because
Pantoja got 40.5 or something like that. 45.5, one of those. I wonder how Figueiredo did.
He was in the 90s or 89 to 90s. So he definitely was on those first place cards. It was an interesting thing because most first place cards that I saw throughout the night didn't have the winner of the main event, but did have the loser.
Huh.
Multiple first place cards. So it was definitely a interesting night as far as DraftKings going out there.
Where do you get Figueiredo going forward?
Who do you give him next at 125 pounds? I mean, he just lost to Formiga. He's beat Moraga. I mean, Joey B. It's Joey B, right?
No, Joey B's going for the belt against Cejudo. A lot of people feel
like
he should. What about Figueiredo Faber? You think Faber will take that fight?
No, Faber won't take that fight. Guarantee Faber won't take that fight.
What else do we have going on at 125? Oh, that's a whole different weight class. Faber's not at 125.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Dustin Ortiz, if he's still with the organization, I don't think they have fought.
That's great. And that's a grinder, where if you get past Dustin, you are home free.
Exactly.
That's that sneaky grind. I don't mind that fight for him. Even though this kind of could have gone that way, this ended up being a lot more stand-up than I thought it was going to be.
Well, it was Silva not being able to take him down. Or Pantoja not able to take him down in there. Yeah. So that's definitely, Figueiredo's going to be able to tune up a lot of people if he's able to keep it on the feet. Moving on to 145 pounds, we had Gavin Tucker, the local Canadian, coming in against Soo Woo Choi. Ended up switching at weigh-ins as well to Choi. So it was 2 people I switched to that ended up losing. I just saw the stare down and I thought Tucker also looked intimidated, and Choi was stepping forward looking humongous at 6 feet at 145 pounds. I was like, ooh, I think Choi he's a worse fighter, but has more power. The same thing I put into Stewart and Froda. And guess what? The better fighter won. So, Tucker, I liked what I saw in there, but this was actually...
this pissed you off, this fight.
This was a really bad fight because there was a lot of infractions. Multiple head strikes to a grounded opponent in Choi. 3... On the third one, finally Goddard took a point in the second round. So, Tucker needed to get a finish, or it could have been a draw because it was a close fight in there. Tucker ends up finishing in the third round, but Joe Rogan in there, I feel like, was really off on this fight as well. And we had a lot of the Twitter community also chiming in, being like, what is going on? Joe Rogan is high as fuck. And I agree. People that say Joe Rogan does not smoke before he gets on air, you're crazy. You're crazy. You're crazy.
I think Joe Rogan smokes a lot more than he even lets on. I think Joe Rogan's high all MF day.
I agree.
I think he's somebody that probably gets angry if he ain't high.
I would agree with that.
Like, I think he has to do it. That's why he has to float and meditate and smoke a bunch of weed, because I think he's an angry little man. But I might have even verbalized it last night. If I didn't, I thought it very loudly in my head a few times. I don't need Joe Rogan there anymore.
You did verbalize it, and I agree. Because how many times? I mean, we need to start doing some of these live show breakdowns without the TV in the frame, because we're talking about tactics, and Joe 30 seconds later is like, oh, look, I see what he did. It's like someone's got a mic. Someone's got a mic and is listening in on us, because really just a step behind and really off. I agree with that. Joe might need somebody else. It was a two-person panel. It was Joe Rogan, John Anik. And do you think there needs to be another color fighter in there? Because Anik's more of just a Xbox Live, Devour type of plug guy. Breaks down a little bit. Joe Rogan's the color.
What's Devour? I saw that on the behind
pizza?
Them. I don't know.
It was all over embedded. Like, it's pizza. It's frozen pizza for your microwave.
Oh, I thought it was... This is what in my head I created. A delivery service that delivers meat to your house.
No, it was definitely pizza, which, hey, I seem to like some pizza, so Devour, get at your boy. Get at your boy.
I did like a lot of what I saw from Tucker. He was a grinder. He looked good everywhere. Do you think there's any potential in Choi? Do you think he has to change camps? Do you think he has to come to the States? What do you think?
100% come to the States, but these South Korean fighters like to stay in South Korea, and if he comes to the States, he's going to get a lot better. That takedown and a grind that he wasn't doing bad in, but he was losing up against the cage. I was actually surprised with Choi's gas tank in that second round. I would have thought with the grappling he would have been more tired than he was. But it finally ended up him getting knocked down. No, that was Hori in there. But either way, it finally ended up showing up in the third round. But I like Choi. I think he still can have fun fights and be serviceable in here. He's not going to make a run for the belt, but he's going to have some fun ones in there. I don't know what I like with Tucker. I don't know if I really like him. I think he has questionable IQ in there. Got a full point taken away. It's rarer for us to see that, and it was just because he was throwing strikes that were weird. I don't believe,
though, even though I had Choi too, I also changed. This was one of the fights that cost me both those fights. I'm with you. I changed both those too. We let that shitty old stare down get to us on both
Too
fighters.
much of the weigh-ins.
Yeah, who cares? I usually, and I say it over and over again, every time I change from off air, it hurts me.
And even Stewart, that's 3. Because I feel like I switched from Coke to Stewart after weigh-in. Could be
that
wrong.
one helped me. I switched to Coke, but I said I was going to if he looked good at weigh-in. So if I would
true.
have just stuck with what I said on air, it would have been a better night. I don't know what I think of Choi going forward.
He can fight anyone.
Tucker, I really like him a lot going forward. He was a Faraz hobby guy, and Joe kept making mention to that, which the downed opponent thing was a little unnerving. Like, he has to be careful there, but that hopefully will come along. I like Tucker going forward. I think he's dangerous. I think he could be sneaky dangerous. And there's another Canada card happening in a few weeks. I think that's crazy.
That is crazy. Interesting that Canada doesn't have the biggest roster on there.
But I just think it's like, whoa, that's really close together.
Very true. Very, very true. Anything left with either of those opponents? They're young enough they can fight literally anyone.
Yeah, and they're not up there high enough for us to decide. So
at 145 pounds, we ended up having Mean Hakeem Duwadu coming in with all sorts of towel issues, weighing in with 5 minutes left against debuting Yoshinori Hori. Hori coming in and cracking in there in the first round. Even second round, I mean, we saw Duwadu on his butt a couple times there. Knockdowns. People said it was a slip. I think it was a bit of both. I think Hori was cracking. He was throwing all sorts of heat in there, and Duwadu showed a good reaction after getting hit, never getting too flustered in there and just keeping a good pace about him. Finally, in the third round, he ends up landing a left head kick off of the break, which we saw quite a few fighters throwing kicks and punches off of the break, and it's just like there was a lot of fun exchanges in there. Figueiredo was doing it great in there as well, but this was one of those that I felt was a little bit early in there. Not only was it the local Canada guy getting a lot of hype and exclamation from the crowd being hyped every time he landed, but that head kick landed, but at no point in time was Hori out. He wasn't Ronda Rousey in there. He wasn't Latifi'd. He fell back, landed on his hands, and was gonna get ready. I mean, he didn't even need another shot.
At best, Aspen latted.
I agree.
It was just a little, it was early.
His eyes, you could see his eyes open the entire time on the way down. There was a perfect angle.
He
was never
like he
dead-eyed.
lost it a little bit, but it was totally, by the time he hit, he looked fine. And he looked like he was regaining himself a little. I also thought it was an early stoppage, but I really like both guys going forward here.
I agree with that.
I think I liked Duwadu impressed me because I thought he was the guy that had to finish fast or he was going to burn out, and he looked actually good in the later part of the fight and showed good ring IQ, showed good ability to recover, which is super important. And Hori, I think he is sneaky dangerous, and I don't think a lot of people make it through what he threw out in that first round. I don't think a lot of fighters make it through that. I think Hori is a sneaky underdog going forward. I actually feel like he gained more with me on the loss than Duwadu did on the win.
A lot of fun talent showing up at this card.
What's this? Dadu.
Duwadu is but Dadua. I've heard it as Dadua. I heard him say it and it was Dadua, but Joe Rogan was saying Duwadu. And we were saying, because it reads Duwadu.
But I think it's something, you are right. It isn't Duwadu. It's like
Dadua.
Dadu.
Dadua. Dadu. Or Dadu. Yeah.
Just Dadu. I don't think it has a wa after it. But it was just a name that it's odd. It's one of those ones you definitely can't read. It's a little off of what it reads.
Right.
Off, but it doesn't,
Who I would say Hori reminded me most of in this fight was actually Ishihara. The alpha male prospect who's no longer in the UFC.
Racist.
No, in the fight style! With the power! With the power and the way he throws just these looping under uppercuts and stuff. They don't look alike any means whatsoever, but I agree with what you're saying. He's going to be underrated in his next fight, and if somebody has a suspect chin, Hori's going to be super live in that for the knockout. So moving forward with Hakeem.
And it was called early, so people are going to think it's a technical knockout. And I'm like, I beg to differ. In my head, it'll always be a decision.
Right.
And it would have been, at least Hori would have gotten the first round of that decision, in my opinion.
I agree. There was a couple knockdowns, even in the second round for him there. So anybody for either one of those guys. Hakeem finally got a finish. It's been a lot of decisions in there. I was saying he doesn't have tons of power. I would still stick to that. He doesn't have to. He didn't knock him out.
Yeah, I think you're a little...
like, he's still more of a point fighter than anything.
He's scary looking. He's somebody that I let the weigh-ins get to me again.
Because mean, and he lives up to that moniker. He tries to go in there, but is it one of those things where he's like, yeah, I'm mean, and intimidates you to thinking he's got all this knockout power when he's a point fighter?
Way more money on Hori to be made going forward.
I kind of agree with that as well. Anything left with either one of those, gentlemen?
I think Dadu, it will actually be exploited going forward.
I think Henry type fighters, guys that get right up in his face, are always going to be a problem for him because that's the blueprint to beat him. You got to just get after him. Not let that intimidation come through. On to the headlining preliminary bout. We ended up having Viviana Araujo coming in against Alexis Davis, the Canadian mom, ended up coming in there and using...
Chris Cyborg's a mom.
No, well, she adopted her niece.
Oh.
Yeah, that wasn't at her belly. You don't get those abs. You don't get to keep them abs if you're a mom. Sorry. Well, maybe you can.
I know a ton of moms with abs.
True. But yeah, that's adopted. So, yeah, if she falls on that and is like, I'm a mom, that's gross because she's...
Like Michelle Waterson.
True.
She's going to be the first mom champ.
Officially. Well, yeah.
That's what she wants. That's her goals.
Hopefully. So that's the most you got to take away from this Araujo-Alexis Davis fight is Davis being a fight. This turned into a unanimous decision. Could have been a dirty split in some people's eyes. I kind of agree with that. If it would have been 29-28, wouldn't have been too mad. But Araujo, really, the gas tank that she showed in that first fight on short notice up a bunch of weight classes did not show out here. I mean, Araujo showing that she was... better by sticking in, her jab was on point, right was on point, but Davis would eat every shot, move forward, and Davis just wore it a lot worse, didn't land as many shots, but Nothing really jumped out at me here. There wasn't good takedowns by Davis, and it was barely good defense by Araujo. So I'm not as hyped as I was on my linchpin. I put Araujo everywhere, thinking she was going to get a finish in here.
I actually had Davis on a lot more cards, just as I didn't think she was going to win, but I thought she'd carry points safely for me to put a bunch of meaty.
What did she score, roughly? Because I didn't play
she
her.
was 40. I don't know.
Around that score, it wasn't for either lady. I mean, Araujo ended up scoring, I believe it was 72 points, but for her 91 price tag, wasn't worth it. I do think that Davis was in that like 40-point range. Again, you're not going to win any cards with either one of those. So,
but I agree. I think I just have a little higher. I think Davis is a gatekeeper, and she is a rough fight. So I don't disrespect Araujo here. I actually think she'll come out and be twice the fighter with this close of a win. But I just think Davis is better than everyone always gives her credit for. Her record just doesn't show. She's a harder fight than people think. She's just kind of limited in her skill set.
Right.
So, but it's harder. She's a better grinder. I think she's stronger than people think. And so I'm not discrediting Araujo, but I would like to see her go and work on something. She's going to have to work on that cardio.
That cardio for sure is the biggest thing that I saw because the fundamentals are there. It's just that her gas tank really wore on her. So a blueprint to be able to get in there with her and get her out of there. Alexis Davis, it is time, my friend, to get on out of here. In my point of view, you did your time. You've done it all. There's nothing left for you. The lady on her second fight pretty much one-handedly there, and I just feel like Davis is only in there to be a stepping stone for someone, and I don't like that, especially she's got other things to do, I feel like, in my point of view.
I just don't think she's taken the amount of head trauma, maybe at guys with heavier hands that they're taking, even on her losses, that she still might put asses in the seat in Canada, so maybe a fight, maybe another fight. She has an okay name. She's been around. She's been around the block. Since
the WEC days, for sure. So, interesting with Araujo. Where do you think she goes as well?
I don't know yet.
I agree. Still going to be tentative on that one. If you're trying to make any money on the side, if you need someone to follow, you can follow at Zoltanite, at Weakneck Baby, at latb_MMA on Instagram, and Twitter is where you can be finding all of our picks, all of our posters. Anything you want to get in touch with us, go ahead and comment. We ain't scared. I could take criticism, good or bad.
Yeah, get on now while you can still afford a room at this hotel. You better get on now because we're building more floors and it's getting higher.
This is true. We are appreciating all the new fans as well. Saw a good little bump in viewership all the way around as well recently.
Welcome, Stitcher folk. Welcome.
Finally getting on there. The name not holding us down as much. Lat MMA coming through. Lady and the better, right? Lady and the better?
Oh, there you go. I don't know who you're calling a lady around.
My bad. Lucky and the better. Boom.
It could be something different every day.
There it is. So,
I like that I was trying to think of something with like Leslie Smith, and the Bullet.
Leslie and the Bullet? Yeah, that's a good one.
Like that's for the OG.
That's for the OG
fans.
Definitely a good one. So, on to the pay-per-view. We ended up having 5 cards showing out here with Krzysztof Jutko coming in against Berat. Andre, the Canadian, came in against the Polish fighter at 185 pounds. This ended up turning into a dirty-ass, disgusting split and had all the telltale signs. Both of these guys dropping each other on each other's head. Some good takedowns, good entries from both of them. But Jutko 2.0 ended up really just using that grappling to get the win in here. Striking for both guys at level. Jutko's had more experience, a lot more time, but to me, he's this type of fighters that fights to the level of his opponent. And that's somebody who's always going to be in dirty-ass split fights. So, someone I'm going to be really tentative on. This 2.0 Jutko is just, I don't know if it's turned to point fighting, but it's just not, that killer instinct isn't there. And it's to keep him and not in danger of getting knocked out. But at the same time, he's not going to get a knockout or a finish as much. So, I don't know, would Baralt show up, or was it just fighting to the level of his opponent? What'd you take away from this one?
I did not get this one right. I had Baralt the whole time. I just thought he would eventually capitalize on Jutko's chinny chin. Gosh, I kind of like Baralt going forward still more than Jutko, even though Jutko pulled this out. I just think Baralt's going to be the guy looking up at his next opponent as far as everyone's concerned. And I just think he's dangerous in a lot of weird spots. Jutko, I don't hate on him. Whatever he did out there, maybe he took weight cutting more seriously. Maybe he just didn't look as chinny and he put up with a lot of damage and still came through. This fight, I wasn't even mad. It was so close. I was in my head like it could go either way. And I was totally looking at it biased because I was like, no one had Baralt anywhere.
Nobody.
So it would have been that one that separated me from the pack, but it was kind of shitty scoring. I don't know.
Both guys. Jutko was nowhere.
I didn't have Jutko anywhere. So
I think I might have had Jutko on one or two, but yeah, he was absolutely garbage as far as DraftKings. So again, not really anything I'm liking or any big jumps I'm seeing for Jutko as long as he's been fighting now, because he has had multiple fights in here, and most of his wins have only been in the UFC, but again, he's looked like he's taking the more educated route, which is also the least flashy, and with Coke and Jutko
yeah, we like
in here.
that actually. Like if you're gonna go out and play a smarter fight,
True.
There's a little more longevity in your career.
True, but I don't know why. I started off bad, but now these decision fights just get me antsy. They got me antsy all of a sudden. I don't know why.
By this fight night had me on the edge of my seat. It really did. Like, this started the build-up, and then the next fight, it built up a little higher, and the next fight, we ran a poll before we get into the next 4 fights that we asked, a couple of you took part, and it was on Twitter, and we asked what underdog do you think has the best shot here? And so it was the Canadian gangster, Aubin Mercier, Niko Price, Spencer, or Edgar, and to no surprise or surprise, Niko Price won. You had Niko Price. You thought he had the best shot before.
I thought he had the best shot. I still picked Neil, but yeah, I would agree on that poll that it was who ended up getting the highest percentage, which is the Aubin Mercier people picked as far as the poll.
No, Niko Price won.
That's
it was
right.
like 47%, I think, Niko Price. But I know. You know what? I should have had an image of that up here.
Yeah, that's where
anyway,
I was like, oh.
No, yeah, but Aubin Mercier might have been tied for second with Felicia.
They were pretty close.
Yeah, I don't even remember. You'll have to look at it if you follow us on Twitter. But the reason I was saying it is because to start here is I had Aubin Mercier as my pick, but most people didn't agree with me. They agree with you. Most people had Niko Price. Ding, ding.
Correct as having the most likely to be the underdog, but at 155 pounds, we had Arman Sarukian coming in being a favorite against Aubin Mercier, the Canadian gangster, came in. And again, a lot of what Hernandez did to him and a lot of these other guys that have started to beat Aubin Mercier, his striking is still just not at level, and the grind that he used to have, that he was catching people off guard with, people are like, oh, let's just be more offensive, because off of his backer defending, being defensive grappler in there, Aubin Mercier does have deficiencies, and he can just be out-grappled. Not submitted, but he will lose a fight via decision, and that's what happened. There was a lot of people talking about, and I didn't know this till after the fact, that the Canadian gangster ended up paying a handicapper to break down the fight of his opponent to know what the game plan is, which I think your camp should be doing, honestly. You shouldn't be paying some sports bettor who doesn't train to do that. But he ended up getting a 3-page report on Sarukian on how to beat him. And to me, it just seems kind of a little backwards. I have heard of this happening, but not for a long time, at least not officially going out there. But to me, what I would have thought the sports bettor would have done was broken down Aubin Mercier so Aubin knows his deficiencies to try to get better, instead of being like, well, this guy's bad here. Because you're not making up time.
You should have your camp breaking down the other guys to find their holes. And if you want to get next level, you're right. Have a sports bettor break down the holes to beat you.
You, exactly.
Yeah, that's so much.
Exactly, right? Not your opponent. It's like, no, that's what your camp does.
Yeah.
Your camp does that. The tape that they should be doing is on you, and then you're like, oh, I'm weak in this spot. Guess what I'm going to do for the next 2 weeks?
I actually think Aubin Mercier showed out way more than anyone thought he was going to. I thought it was scary for
big underdog
Tsarukyan in a few spots in this fight. I even give a round. I think this was a weird one. Was it 29-28 this fight?
I think there might have been a 29-28, but 30-27 and two 29-28 type of fight.
Aubin Mercier looked okay. Better than anyone thought he was going to.
I agree.
But you're right. This is weird. He needs to... Is he a TriStar guy?
He's been back and forth. I don't know if he reps them, but I know he trained up there for a while. When he was younger, I do think he's at his own type of system now, wherever he's at up there. But
it might be time to change things up.
Like ATT changed things up.
Yeah.
But he definitely needs to work on those hands as far as
I love that idea for him.
Yep.
ATT.
With Tsarukyan, second fight in the UFC, first win. Fighting now 2 at-level competition. I mean, this is a humongous step up, even, well, not from his previous opponent, but still, this is a name. Aubin Mercier is a name. Tsarukyan can't be overlooked now, regardless.
Yeah, and he shouldn't be overlooked by anyone. He's 22 years old.
Yep.
22 years old. I thought he looked unbelievable in there.
Which Tsarukyan actually moved from Tiger Muay Thai to ATT after that last fight.
You know, and that's the other thing, like how I always love a Polish fighter. I love always somebody from Tiger Muay Thai.
Right. Well, now Tiger Muay Thai and now ATT.
It makes me think of a Valentina Shevchenko.
Exactly. But now over in Florida here with that crew of monsters, like
danger.
Super dangerous. A lot of people see that coming though for that young man. Again, the wrestling is where he really, really stands out.
I thought his kicks looked good.
Yeah.
His legs look like tree trunks. They looked enormous. Unbelievable.
Absolutely in there. Who would you give either of them next? Does it even matter?
I think if the Canadian Gangster is a name, I think you're right. 155. So he deserves another name.
Alexander Hernandez. Tyson, right, Tsarukyan. Hernandez just beat Aubin Mercier in the same fashion, and now it's a wrestler versus wrestler, but I would say Hernandez Alex Hernandez, the Great White. He just lost. He just won.
That's all right, yeah. I mean, if they're on an okay...
He just fought last week against Trinaldo. He won that disgusting split.
Yeah, that's a good fight.
That's what I'm thinking for Tsarukyan. Anybody for Aubin Mercier, he's got big enough of a name. On to 170 pounds. Fight of the night contender while it lasted. We had who people thought had the best shot. I thought he had the best shot. And man, we almost had a double knockout last night at a point in time.
I've never seen that before.
That was in the UFC. I don't think we've seen that. Seen a couple of amateur or pro scenes outside of the UFC in boxing. It happens every once in a while, but this was technically a headbutt. But that was even in the second round. First round, these boys are getting at it. And if you're following the Lat B rule, when we decide on the exact same way of a finish in the round, you put a bet on it. And if you put round number 2, Jeffrey Neal, you ended up cashing out big money, plus 900.
You were so excited about it. You were so excited. You know what? Maybe we need to make a new stamp for that when we agree.
Right.
And actually put out the sticker on a picture as a bet of like prop bet. You should do this in the second round by knockout, blah, blah, blah. Because, yeah, the 900 on that. This saved my DraftKings night, putting a little prop on this.
I had Neal everywhere as far as DraftKings as well.
I didn't do good on DraftKings.
I didn't.
A little prop bet because we agreed. Saved my night.
Right. It might have been like plus 700, but regardless, plus that heavy, you're going to end up making money on those type of prop bets. Against Niko Price in this, I mean, both of them, Niko Price in there, hurting to an extent Neal a little bit, but pretty much the striking, the speed just ended up going to Neal. And this was when we got into the second round. They clashed heads. Both of them went down. Price didn't wear it as bad. He fell down and landed on top of Neal. And
I really don't think Neal wore it as bad. It's just the placement of where they fell.
Right.
And then Joe Rogan saying, oh, Neal's really hurting here. He's on his way out. Like, there was some dangerous things that Price did because he fell on top position. But then Neal seemed to have got it together just as well.
Right.
Well, it was just he was fighting off his back on the bottom, and then Joe Rogan's bias
100%.
So much more dangerous.
100%. And then eventually Neil reversed it and ended up starting to land that ground and pound. I was saying on the ground, ooh, he just ate 4 shots that were hard. Neil trapped Price's hand and was just landing lefts like he was standing up. You saw Price finally taking him, going limp for a split second. It was a good call. I absolutely love Price's toughness, but he's the type of guy that you got to stop him from himself. You got to save him from himself. So I like it. He should take a little bit of a break. Price is going to be a big underdog against a lot of other people. Still,
I still love Niko Price.
And I'm going to end up betting on him. But this was just too many deficiencies exactly where Price is bad. But anyone with a rough chin, anyone with a rough ground game, Price is going to be super live in there. Did you see the Twitter stuff afterwards where they were hugging in the back? No animosity.
No.
Price, Niko Price being a class act, just being like, no, man, like, you got me. Good job. Like, we'll be back. And it was just really, there was no mean mugging, even in the ring. Niko Price was in there smiling, being like, damn, you got me, man. That was really awesome.
I like what you're saying, though, about Price going forward, that he's still a great underdog. But Neil, dangerous man going forward. Beating Niko Price and the assassin, or the...
Camacho?
No, who did he just beat right before this?
It was...
Oh my gosh, we talked about it all.
Belil Muhammad.
Winning those 2 fights,
Agreed.
Niko Price and Belil, those are huge to me.
Right, because he proved with Belil that he could beat a grinder, which is... Because Belil is a grinder, the epitome of a grinder, and then knocking out a guy who can grind and has power, I totally agree. There's nothing but
and staying alive with a guy like Niko Price who can submit you like that.
Right.
You know, like, I loved everything that I...
Right.
I like both guys going forward.
Even Frank Camacho for that, I think Camacho is better than people think as well. So, Neil, big trajectory moving forward.
But I also agree with you. I love both guys going forward, but I also... Hey, Niko Price, 6 months. Minimum 6 months. Just chill out. Do some little... It's not even because he has any deficiencies anywhere. It's just for heel factor. I like the guys taking the longer times now. I know financially sometimes it's hard, but I feel like, hey, dude, you were just on a main event of a UFC 240 in Canada. Take 6 months. You can afford it.
Right.
Take 6 months.
Go hang out with Perry,
Minimum.
Felicia Spencer, and all that crew over there in Orlando, Florida, because that's where the local... Cape Coral, somewhere around there in Florida, but he's training in Orlando with them. Is there someone you would give Neil specifically?
They're at the 170 division.
Correct.
Golly, this was such a good fight.
It was a great
I was
fight.
on the edge of my seat this whole fight. 170, I think Stephen Wonderboy Thompson.
Coming off of a loss? Interesting.
He's off so many losses. I think always the off the loss you fight down, off a win you fight up. Beating 2 guys in a row, 2 names in my opinion, Belil and Niko. They're not Stephen Wonderboy names, but hey, Stephen Wonderboy hasn't won in a really long time.
True. I could also see Luque getting in there and mixing it up at 170.
Luque deserves a bigger name than Neil.
I would agree with that. I
think that fight, unbelievable.
Oh, that's a firefight.
But I just think Luque's climbing. Luque, in my opinion, his name should be in the talks when people are talking about Usman, Covington, Lawler, Askren. Luque versus Askren. That's a sneaky good fight.
That's not official?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, I'm like, that's just should be it's like Luque's name should be in that conversation. It's a damn shame it's not. Like, nothing against Neil. He'll be up there one day, but Luque's just done enough that his name should be in talks with the tops.
And Masvidal isn't in there anywhere? Because he's a big name all of a sudden at 170. Is Till.
Yeah.
I could actually see Neil Till. That would be a good fight.
Yeah, I like Askren Till. But they're talking Damian Maia.
That's what I was hearing as well,
Damian Maia's going to have a really rough time. I feel like if you survive against a guy like Price and a grinder like Belil Muhammad, you're going to be okay in there against a guy. Neil's wrestling's proven to pay off.
I thought they were saying Maia Askren is what you were saying, right?
Yeah, that's what I heard.
That's what I heard as well. I got give me Maia in that one all day. I'm just saying. So, anything left with either one of these gentlemen?
No.
On to the co-main event. At 145 pounds, we had Chris Cyborg coming in against Felicia Spencer against coming off of that win against Megan Anderson, showing her toughness in there. A lot of people didn't give her a shot. Minus 650 biggest favorite of the night for Cyborg, and she looked human in there. Felicia Spencer coming out in the first minute and giving Cyborg the first cut she's ever had in competition, and it was a bleeder. It was a gusher. She ended up getting, a
perfect stepping elbow.
Was it? I thought it was like a flying knee or a flying elbow. Like she jumped into it.
I thought she stepped in.
Well, the elbows I saw stepping in was Figueiredo was throwing those amazing elbows throughout the night. There was also who else in there was throwing?
Felicia Spencer pieced apart every time
True.
she really
She was
got
throwing on the
Cyborg
cage.
good. It was elbows. She was doing these up elbows that were really showing her flexibility. She was doing knees behind herself and hitting Cyborg. I like Felicia Spencer everywhere going forward. And not only is Cyborg showing she's human, it makes me a little sad to say. It's like, I almost feel the same way about it as like John Jones' last fight. It's just, none of us can outrun age. And it's just starting to show a little bit with Cyborg.
She's human. She does bleed. Yeah. She is not infallible in there whatsoever. Speaking of John Bones Jones, you heard he's been out there grabbing people by all sorts of parts?
I think we had talked about it a little last week, but then the big news of John Bones Jones was Corey Anderson.
Well, it was also Dana White saying, I saw that video. He good.
He's fine.
Yeah, Dana White's like, I saw it. Someone wants money. Like, he gonna be fine. He's gonna fight next week. And
I guess Corey Anderson went to a meet and greet that John Bones Jones was at and trying to call him out.
Cringe fest.
Well, they asked Dana White about it at the post-fight presser of 240.
Right.
And he was like, good try, Corey Anderson. He's like, I've offered Corey Anderson 5 fights last month, and he turns them down.
He's at 50.
Yeah, maybe 50.
He's 50 fights. He's turned everyone down because he just wants to fight
Jones. No offense to Corey Anderson at all.
You can't turn down fights.
And you're not fighting John Jones, dude. Like, you got some fights to win to fight John Jones. Mm-hmm. But you know where he does win? One of your favorite games. That nipple game.
True. He's been making a steady climb in that nip game. For sure, Corey Anderson has been lethal with those damn things. But a cringe fest as far as those videos. And with John Bones Jones, it's just like, there's a place and time for that. And it's not at another guy's book signing or autograph signing. Like, that's just like, dude, come on. Who are you? But that happened to John Jones at his last signing in Europe. Did you see that random fan in there be like, blah, blah, blah. Oh, let's go outside. And John's like, what? But he did it to himself. I mean, this is John Jones' own fault. So, back to Spencer and Cyborg. I mean, I like what you're saying with Felicia Spencer. I like her absolutely everywhere. She was definitely had the toughest fight she's ever had. In only 8 fights, she's fighting Cyborg and going the distance. A lot of people can't claim that.
8 fights not in the UFC. 1 fight in the UFC to Cyborg. 8 fights total professionally.
So, I like it. What you're saying with the weight cut, she doesn't have it. She made championship weight. Actually weighed in like a 0.4 under all of that. But a lot of people saying that she could move down to 35. Yes, she can. But if she just did this at 45, why not just be a top 5 contender and get paid as a top 5 contender at 45?
I already got the matchups for both these.
Let's go.
Felicia Spencer, her only fight is, sorry to say everyone, but the UFC is going to do it to her. They're going to make Holly Holm step up to 145 to fight Felicia Spencer. And Cyborg, I'm also sad to say this because I don't think it should happen at all, and it doesn't look great, but Amanda Nunes is going to defend her belt at 145. So Cyborg fights Amanda Nunes again. I think everything kind of goes the same way. After watching this between Spencer and Cyborg, I don't like Cyborg's chances against Amanda to even survive the first round.
Officially, they're saying everybody has signed the dotted line because that's what Dana was saying nonstop. No. Was Cyborg doesn't want that fight, which... My theory real quick on it, may I?
Yes.
I feel like Cyborg was willing to take the fight, but she had a stipulation saying, I'll fight her again, but you got to pay me more money than I even got paid last time because I could lose. And Dana's like, you don't want the fight. He's just like, she doesn't want the fight because they were probably offering her less because it was a loss. So now that she's back in the win column, she has a bit more leverage. But that's my theory of why Dana kept saying she didn't want the fight.
Mine is Cyborg is up for contract negotiation right now, because she only had 1 more fight left on her contract. So if I'm Cyborg, and I think she has an amount of money set, I don't think it's any more or less. I think she wanted to renegotiate prematurely. And she's like, hey, if I have 1 fight on my contract for a certain amount of money, give me a fucking what she considered a walkthrough fight, because Amanda Nunes hits hard and knocked me out, and that's going to give me brain damage. So I will take the Amanda Nunes fight if you want me to have it, but we're going to renegotiate my new contract going forward because I'm not going to get paid peanuts anymore. Exactly. That's what I think. So I think that it's all new contract stuff. So she's willing to fight Amanda Nunes all day. She just wants under her new contract making more money. So we're kind of both saying the same thing in places.
Right. It's
but
the wage
I just
game.
think for Cyborg, she wasn't expecting this fight to be like this. But it's unfortunately, I don't like her. But she might know she has a new contract going forward, and she might be okay to lose. She might even be thinking, I'm going to get knocked out again. I want to be making more money to get knocked out.
Very, very, very true in there. And there's now almost the limit that we can see a light at the end of the tunnel for Cyborg as far as her career. As you're saying, it's starting to wear on her, and she's only fighting the best of the best in there. So maybe 4 or 5 more fights, but it's not the extended career that I used to think that she was going to have in the division, for sure. Did you see the tape of Cyborg talking to Dana White in the back and being like, I'm ready to talk now. I'm ready to talk.
No, they were really close, though, on the stage. I watched the post-fight presser, and he talked right before her. So I was wondering, and it was awkward when she came out a little bit about things she said after reporters that I'm like, oh, I wonder if they saw each other backstage. I actually had that.
I actually want to give not props to the stitch man in there. Whoever was stitching up these fighters in the back room in Canada was a general practitioner. He was not a plastic surgeon, because everybody had the biggest stitches I'd ever seen in there. Maybe I'm wrong, but look back. She had, it's okay to get... Cyborg?
She said she got, I think, 7 stitches.
But to me, they just look thick and like they had way too much extra on them. Same with Frankie Edgar. He had a bunch over his eye, and I was like, is that a bruise? No, that's a bunch of wrap. Like, that's a bunch of the stitch. That doesn't seem right. Usually they seem to be a lot cleaner. I don't know. That's what I kept noticing, so... Again, I like to pay attention to all of it.
I thought it was a nasty, brutal cut, so I wasn't mad at Cyborg's stitch. I thought that's, like, it looked like almost staples, like she had to get it because it was so deep, like she had to get, like, extra.
That's where I honestly would have thought it would have been staples instead of stitches.
I forgot my linchpin this week, everyone.
It happens. It happens to the best of us in there. So, luckily on DraftKings, you didn't have a linchpin because it didn't work out for you on DraftKings.
It wasn't great.
So, luckily we have a week.
I didn't.
Luckily, we got another week to be able to make that back right around the corner. But the main event ended up playing out at 145 pounds with Max Holloway, returning champ, on the 10th island, coming back and showing out against Frankie Edgar. I mean, nobody was surprised here. Not really anybody
Except
I
Max
saw.
Holloway tried to say, you guys thought I wasn't going to be able to handle the ground game. You guys thought I'm like, I didn't. Nobody thought you were going to lose.
Nobody. I mean, people did say, and as far as DraftKings, Frankie Edgar was live in there because he was 6'9", and if he goes all 5 rounds, which he did, he would be worth it. And as I'm saying, the first place cards I saw on multiple tournaments had Frankie Edgar and not Max Holloway. So the Hawaiian...
How many points did Frankie Edgar get?
I believe it was 58, but for 68 points, he gave you everybody else you were able to play at a high price, Neil and all those guys. And Max Holloway being in that like 9-2, 9-3, he only got like 90 points, 98 points as well, not breaking 100. So he really wasn't the biggest play in there. When a lot of people thought he had a much bigger ceiling as far as DraftKings, I was heavy on Max. I saw him being owned 60 and 77% in tournaments there. That means 3/4 of the tournament were betting on Max. So
I think
interesting.
I would just guess by those numbers, as most people saw it finishing like me by knockout in the 3rd or 4th round.
I had it in the 4th and 5th round as well, and I thought it could have went there, but Frankie never really looked in that much trouble. He definitely wore it worse, but he was never hurt in there.
I gotta disagree. I thought he was hurt a few times, and you gotta be hard pressed to even get Frankie around. And a guy like Frankie Edgar with as much skill, as much IQ, as much history, as much, like everything you can say about Frankie and the positive, he just got handled everywhere in there.
I would actually say I gave the first round to Frankie, but all 4 decidedly the rest. And a lot of people, if there was 1 round to give to Frankie, it would have only been the first. Nobody said any others.
I actually was like, okay, I give all the rounds to Max, but if the 1st or 4th go to Frankie, I won't
be upset.
I'll just be
agree.
like, okay, I would have given him 1, 2. It would have made me feel guilty not to. It's Frankie fucking Edgar. But
totally
agree. Max Holloway, man.
So...
He's only calling out DC. Because who else does he call out? He's like, I want to be a pound for pound. I want to be a pound for pound. Young man, you deserve to be. You deserve to be.
But he just lost to 55, so unless he goes to 35, which he can't make, I mean, the shots Volkanovski, they had Volkanovski weighing in, which had me a little hesitant because usually they do that when someone's hurt, when somebody's got an issue of trying to. They not only did they fly Volkanovski down there,
they've been doing it a lot more.
True,
especially, I think they're gonna do it a lot more because remember when Usman weighed in just before against, before he was the champ. I think that with ESPN they're gonna, because especially if it gets down to 11 fights.
Right, they're like, nah, we can't do 10.
Yeah.
Can't do 10 in there. Totally agreed with that, which is smart, but I did maybe look a little bit too much into that. We had Volkanovski all over the past reports saying, yeah, let's fight, let's do it in, 2 months essentially for Max over in New Zealand. They want to take him. Max really not getting hurt in there.
Yeah, but Max doesn't care at all. What I gathered from Max is he is taken off until November.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah,
Damn it.
Yeah, I did not gather. Or he said, did he? Yeah, he's like, did he say the first week of December, the last week of November? He said something like, that's Max Holloway time. I always fight the first card, the second week of November, whatever. But I don't even know why would the champ, Max Holloway, the guy that just beat Chad Mendes, is calling you out to his hometown halfway around the globe? No, that's not the way it works. Like, I don't think that makes sense
You
at
go to
all.
Vegas, Volkanovski.
No, you go wherever Max says to go.
Right.
Like, you aren't even in... To me, if he doesn't get the fight next, it's no harm, no foul yet. I don't think Volkanovski's done enough to deserve a fight with Max Holloway.
And Max gets the call out anywhere other than Hawaii.
Volkanovski should fight... I mean, there's so many people he should be fighting before Max.
I could see that,
He has to work his way up. I think Volkanovski's more likely to fight Edgar on a heel than Max. Or Volkanovski, Aldo. Wasn't that supposed to happen?
That's what I was thinking. Did that not happen? I think it did happen.
And he just walked
and
Aldo?
Yeah, I could be wrong on there.
No, he just beat Chad Mendes. That's it. It's off the Chad Mendes KO. This is where all this is. Am I wrong? Did he beat Aldo as well?
I feel like he did. We're going to find that out real quick. He ended up being Jose Aldo in a unanimous decision.
Wow.
That's why he's a number one contender, and it's true. He's earned it. He's earned it. You just keep forgetting about it.
I just keep forgetting about it.
So
why? It had to have been a main event too.
Yeah.
No, maybe it wasn't. Maybe it was like the third
co-main. It might have been co-main event or
three round.
It was a 3-round, but that's because Aldo doesn't want it anymore.
He deserves it. I'm sorry for hating on Volkanovski.
So, unless Max can call anywhere. I think it'll probably be Vegas because they ain't going to Hawaii. They've been trying to get that card forever, and UFC ain't going to do it.
Good right now.
But Hawaii's still making a name in the MMA community. Did you hear BJ Penn officially has another fight on the way? Dana White saying, all right, I'm giving him one more fight.
He's retiring after this.
Well, Dana White says he's just not going to fight in the UFC regardless. He is not going to fight.
No, I think even BJ Penn said he was going to retire after this
Well,
fight.
Dana White said even if he thinks of coming back later, he's like, this is it, because he's been blowing up Dana White's phone for the last month or whatever he said. But we've been saying it for a long time. We don't need to see BJ Penn at all in there.
I don't ever need to see him again. Max Holloway, who does he fight? We say Volkanovski, but it'll just have to be under Max's heel schedule.
Correct.
He doesn't need to be under any rush. Do you, right now in your head, where does Volkanovski give Max problems that Frankie, like, don't you feel like
It's the striking.
You think Volkanovski's is better than Frankie's?
Yep.
Huh. I was thinking it was going to be the grind. I was thinking that Volkanovski's wrestling was going to be what was the difference, and that was the only thing that made me kind of nervous going in with Max. But after seeing Max's takedown defense against a guy like Frankie Edgar, it kind of less nervous.
Well, that's why I don't think the ground has any play there, because I don't think it turns into any type of a ground game. Because if Volk even shoots, I think Max keeps it standing, so it stays into a striking bout. So that's where, even off of his back, I think Max is more dangerous. But I see it being interesting striking because Volkanovski's got some fun angles and great fight IQ in there against a top-level fighter in Max Holloway. So...
You know what my dad would have said? Like, when you were like, oh, you were talking shit last week and he did beat Jose Aldo. We kept saying Chad Mendes. He did beat Jose Aldo. My dad would have said, wrong again, toilet breath.
So Volk, if he doesn't get Frankie, or not Frankie, who is it, Max Holloway in New Zealand, who does he fight? If it's not, so Aldo, who else at 45? Did we already say Josh Emmett?
You said Josh Emmett, which I love that fight, which is super dangerous for Volkanovski, but I don't mind if he fights on a card in his hometown. I just don't think he can call out Max to fight on short notice and fly halfway around the world to do it.
Agreed.
Because we also were talking about, could part of Max's issue where he looked gray that one time just be altitude, because he's flying so much further than a lot of the people a lot of the time.
Yeah, he lives on the island.
I just think Max gets to call his fight, and if Volkanovski's smart, he waits for that, even if he's hungry to do it now. He got paid a little money just to make the weight, so at least he can probably pacify training and the cost and expenses of that to wait for Max.
Right.
And whenever Max is ready to fight, they throw down. I think that's the next fight then. I think that's it.
I agree. Anything left for this morning after we did
Where
it?
are we fighting? Where are we fighting out of next on the Wednesday? Breakdown.
Okay. I thought you were talking about the contender series, because we have a contender series.
Yes, we
and
do.
then we
Tuesday.
ended up having, which we'll be tweeting about it somewhat, but then we have a main event at 170 pounds where Colby Covington comes in against Robbie Lawler. This is a midday card out of New Jersey.
Midday?
12 p.m. Eastern Time, 9 a.m. West Coast Time. Set your watches. Look at your local time zones. It's a midday card.
That's crazy.
I love
out of
it.
New Jersey?
I love it. I honestly am like,
Out
yay,
of New Jersey.
midday.
What,
I'm going to go outside.
do you have any quick theme that if I'm like, okay, we're going to do the...
Bagel guy.
I don't even know anything about this bagel guy. I'm so out of the loop.
I like it. A bagel
quick
guy.
pick. I know we're going to... Everything can change, so make sure that you're liking and subscribing and you're telling a friend and doing all that nonsense so you can get the picks first. YouTube and Stitcher and iTunes and all those places. But quick, just to tantalize and nothing else about it. Who you got, Covington or Lawler?
Covington.
I do too.
Yeah, you got to right now. But again, Lawler has good takedown.
Nope.
Oh.
You have to listen to next week,
Great
and you're
call.
going to give it all there. So thanks again for listening. Bye-bye.
Let me.